Good evening. I'm Spot On Weather meteorologist Matthew Euler, and tonight's video is titled Autumn's Ups and Downs. We're heading into that time of year where we're going to see quite a change in temperature from one day to the next, from one week to the next week. So, got a nice little picture here of some pumpkins, getting in the Halloween spirit. We're sitting now at August. We're sitting on October 22nd of 2019, and we're just 9 days away from Halloween itself. So I got a special treat here for tonight's video. We got a sneak peek at the Halloween forecast. So get ready for that as we go into the video. We'll start off with taking a review of October 2019 maximum or high temperature anomalies to date. This is running from October 1st to the 21st. This data is courtesy of the PRISM Climate Group of Oregon State University. As you see, the orangish shadings indicate temperatures that are above normal during the daytime for high temperatures. And you see a big stretch of that orange shading, the orange color, from Texas on up through Arkansas, Louisiana, into the deep south, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee Valley, on up to the Ohio Valley, and right over through the Mid-Atlantic. The warmest above normal temperatures have been pretty much concentrated across the Florida Panhandle into South Alabama, into Georgia, as well as into parts of Indiana and Ohio, Kentucky, and Tennessee. Coolest temperatures are indicated by the greenish and bluish and purple shadings. You can see where the coolest temperatures have been predominantly for the month of October 2019, back towards the Pacific Northwest in Washington, Oregon, into parts of California, Nevada, and then the northern plains states, including North South Dakota and then Nebraska and parts of western Minnesota. A little bit cooler than normal so far this month up in New England. So that's what we're looking at so far in the month of October. And you can kind of get a feel for where it's been warmer than normal and colder than normal. By the way, this scale is in degrees Fahrenheit for the anomaly. All right, so we're moving on now to the current analysis today, 22 October 2019. Image on the left shows a wound up 987 fairly deep low pressure system positioned north of Minnesota into the Canadian area, with a cold front extending southward from parts of Quebec on down through western Pennsylvania, down through West Virginia, parts of Virginia, and all the way down to the Mid-Atlantic, and even in parts of North and South Carolina. A little bit of unsettled weather out in the Pacific Northwest, with rain and snow showers in parts of the Bitterroot chain there in Idaho. In general, the jet stream is the image on the right. Keep in mind that the purple shading is the highest jet stream winds. The maroon and red colors indicate strong, fast-moving rivers of air, or the winds within the jet stream core as well. So what we have is a ridge of high pressure that is positioned over the desert southwestern area of the United States, with a trough digging into the central part of the United States, basically into Minnesota, Wisconsin, parts of Illinois, Iowa. And then we have another ridge that's positioned just off the southeast coastline, just east of Jacksonville. We have another upper air ridge. And so we have southwesterly wind flow today across southeast Virginia. And, it's a little bit after 8 o'clock at night in the evening here on the 22nd. And I noticed just recently how the clouds just kind of broke apart. We did have a line of showers and storms to the west of southeast Virginia earlier in the day, but it just seems as if that line really fell apart. Moving ahead now to the forecast for tomorrow for all your planning purposes. We're moving into Wednesday, the 23rd of October, 2019. We have the cold front that is moving through the area this evening across southeast Virginia will clear the coast. There's a 1,023 millibar high, which is positioned over northern Alabama, and that's going to basically build and work its way into the area. So we're not expecting a big temperature drop behind the cold front. I would say it's considered more of a cool front. This high pressure system is generally building in, but it's not really of Canadian origin. The image on the right shows the jet stream still with a trough configuration, basically extending from western Canada down into parts of Idaho and western Montana, and then a general west to east flow, more of a west-southwest wind in the upper levels at about jet stream level for tomorrow across the mid-Atlantic. But generally tomorrow across southeast Virginia, We're looking for some dry weather, mostly sunny skies, a nice autumn day with high temperatures between 65 and 70. And with drier air working its way in, drier air can cool off 5 times more quickly than moist air. So with drier air moving in, we're expecting overnight lows tomorrow night to drop into the lower 50s. And there's a look on the left of the rest of the country as a whole. There are some pockets of light precipitation across Iowa into parts of South Dakota and rain snow showers into parts of Montana for tomorrow. Moving ahead now to Thursday, October 24th, 2019, we see high pressure still influencing the weather across southeast Virginia and the mid-Atlantic states as a whole. 1,027 millibar high, situated just to the east of Delaware. And so we expect mostly sunny conditions once again on Thursday, the 24th of October for southeast Virginia, including Hampton Roads cities. Very nice temperatures, very nice fall-like weather with a high between 65 and 70 on Thursday as well, with overnight lows again dropping into the low to mid-50s by Friday morning. Looking elsewhere across the United States, there's some pockets of rain across parts of Florida, as well as extending from southeast Missouri down through northwest Arkansas and then eastern Oklahoma and into the Dallas area of Texas. But generally fairly dry across the United States for Thursday, the 24th of October, if you have plans to travel. The graphic on the right shows the jet stream. Again, the general position of the jet stream with the purple colors being the strongest jet stream winds at 140 plus mile per hour winds from that purple shading. The jet stream axis extends generally from north to south across parts of eastern Montana into Wyoming and then into the Four Corners region. And then the trough axis basically extending southwestward from Minnesota down through parts of New Mexico. And generally west-southwest winds continue across southeast Virginia and the mid-Atlantic. The strongest winds remain north of the mid-Atlantic region with the orange shading there into parts of the Midwest and then into New England. Moving ahead now to Friday, October 25th, to end your work week. We're looking at dry weather continuing across southeast Virginia. So if you have plans around the area, get out and enjoy the nice dry weather, beautiful fall weather. We are expecting the thickness values to recover by Friday, so it will be slightly warmer by Friday. We could be looking at 72, 73 degrees by Friday. As the high pressure moves off the coast, the winds turn around a little bit more of a southerly or southwesterly direction. Generally across the United States as a whole for Friday, we have some rain developing across parts of the deep south, generally across Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, parts of Florida. And there's another pocket of rain from southeastern Missouri, parts of southern Illinois, Indiana, and off to the western part of New York State. Generally dry west of the Mississippi River for Friday, the 25th of October. If you're flying out west, the western cities look good for Friday. Look at the image on the right. We now have a stronger upper level high. A very strong ridge has popped its head up across the western United States. The center of that strong high is situated over California. And if we get any kind of offshore Santa Ana wind out there, look out. You may have already seen it in the news. Already some of the wildfires. It's wildfire season across Southern California this time of year when you get that dry northeast Santa Ana wind. Not much moisture associated with that Santa Ana. So that's generally going to result in some higher fire alerts once again, possible fire watches issued out there by the Weather Service. The upper level ridge continues to influence the western United States on Friday, the 25th, with a trough axis now pushing eastward across the Midwestern United States. Look at that purple shading stretching from southern Illinois all the way up into New York State, Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine, as we have a upper level high position off the southeast coast. And we have southwesterly winds now around, clockwise flow around that upper level high at 30,000 feet. So we got some very strong winds in the purple shading, winds in excess of 140 miles per hour. So the jet stream is definitely sagging further south and becoming a player in the upper level dynamics at this time of year as we move into late October. Moving ahead now to your weekend. What does your weekend look like? Saturday, October 26, 2019. Pocket of rain moves into the mid-Atlantic for Saturday, and some of that rain may be heavy at times. And the real trick to this forecast for Saturday, European model is much drier. What you're looking at here on the left with all the green and the yellow shading, the heaviest rain, that's the GFS deterministic or operational model. And it's showing a lot more rain than the European model. So we're going to have to keep an eye on things. This is subject to change for Saturday. Some of the models again are indicating a dry Saturday, so we'll keep we'll keep on top of that, and see what happens. Generally, the coldest temperatures remain with a trough up over the northern plain states, the Pacific Northwest, by Saturday. So the coolest temperatures and the lowest thickness values are over Oregon, into Montana, North Dakota, and even moving down to northern Wyoming and even to central Idaho. So the jet stream axis is generally to the north along the U.S.-Canadian border. There's another pocket of higher winds over New England by Saturday. But in general, for Southeast Virginia, we may be looking at some periods of rain come Saturday, and we will stay on top of that for you. Moving ahead now to Sunday, the 27th of October, 2019, to close out your weekend. If you have a fall festival or plans to go out, the Southeast Virginia area will dry out for Sunday as an area of low pressure and associated frontal boundary move off to the east out over the waters of the western Atlantic. We have another cold front setting up, much colder air moving into the midwestern U.S. by Sunday evening. You see the blue dashed lines in the image on the left. Those indicate lower thickness values and colder temperatures. So we have a lot colder air that's coming in to the Dakotas, Minnesota, Iowa, into parts of Nebraska by Sunday afternoon. Generally across Southeast Virginia, temperatures in the lower 70s, it dries out, so get on out there and enjoy those outdoor activities. The jet stream axis, the image on the right, shows a trough digging basically into the northern plain states in the eastern Montana and in Wyoming, across North and South Dakota. The main trough axis then stretches southwest to northeast from Minnesota up through the northern part of Wisconsin, Lake Superior area into eastern Canada. Moving ahead now to Monday, October 28th, 2019. We're getting closer to Halloween, and I do have a sneak peek forecast for all you goblins out there. You goblins and ghouls, your little pumpkins. We have a forecast coming up here in a moment. So first, let's go to the Monday, October 28th. We do have a couple pockets of rain, the green color there over the mid-Atlantic, as that next strong cold front approaches from the northwest. And we generally have cooler air coming down from Canada. Thicknesses are crashing across the upper Midwest, all the way down into parts of Iowa, Illinois, Indiana. A very cool air mass. Generally high pressure over Texas if you're heading that way. Generally dry again west of the Mississippi River. But east of the Mississippi River across the southeastern U.S. and mid-Atlantic and parts of Southeast Virginia, we're looking at some pockets of rain. The jet stream on the right for Monday, the 28th of October, shows a trough that is generally moving from west to east. And now we have an upper level low position around the vicinity of International Falls, Minnesota, with a deep trough digging in across the central U.S., and that's where the coldest temperatures reside on Monday, the 28th. As I promised, here's the sneak peek Halloween forecast from Spot On Weather. Again, this will be subject to change. I will definitely caution on that. We are looking at a good 9 days out, but generally right now things are looking good as of tonight. A nice strong 1030 millibar high position over western Virginia. And we have some nice cool fall weather. And there's my description for the forecast for Halloween. Ghoulishly gorgeous with a bone-chilling feel to the air. So you got to dress your little trick-or-treaters a little bit warm. We're looking at high pressure, again, in control of the weather, producing dry conditions. High temps in the lower to middle 60s and low temperatures in the lower 50s. Now, at trick-or-treat time, usually between 6 and 8 p.m., we're looking at temperatures generally about 58 to 60 degrees is what we're looking at in those trick-or-treat hours. So it will be cool, and we are expecting light winds because that high pressure is pretty much parked overhead, and the gradient is much more relaxed. So don't expect a lot of wind. Let's hope this forecast holds, because this would be an ideal, perfect trick-or-treating night for all your little ghosts and goblins. Moving ahead now to the longer range outlook, I'll go ahead and just throw out some additional images here to kind of show you what may be occurring down the road, a little bit longer range. Generally the 1st and 2nd of November, generally dry across the mid-Atlantic. There will be a stronger front, the coolest air remaining over the upper Midwest on the 1st and 2nd of November. Generally we have dry conditions, however, for Southeast Virginia. Seasonable temperatures with high temperatures in the 60s. Mid to upper 60s and remaining dry. And across the United States as a whole, it's fairly dry as well. So a couple pockets of rain down across Florida with easterly wind flow around that strong baroclinic high to the north. Now, I wanted to show you a couple different, even longer range, go out a little bit longer range into November. Now, the image on the left, basically the range of dates is from 13 November to 20 November. The image on the right ranges from 21 November to 28 November. So that would take you up close to Thanksgiving time frame. European model, the latest European weeklies came out, and they came out around the 21st of October. So we should be getting some new data in soon. But generally, the orangish colors are indicating above normal temperatures, and the blue shading indicates below normal temperatures. So you can see what the European model is thinking for a good chunk of November, from the 13th of November all the way out to 28 November, indicating the European model is indicating warmer than normal temperatures across Southeast Virginia and the Mid-Atlantic, as well as the eastern United States. Generally, west of the Mississippi River, conditions are below normal as far as temperatures, with a trough. Now that's the European model long range. Now let's take a look at the CFS, Climate Forecast System, and it's indicating a colder long range. That colder long range is for a good chunk of the nation. Now I will tell you, generally the CFS has a warm bias. So when I see below normal temperatures indicated by the CFS, really what I'm looking for is consistency, number one. And that will increase our confidence level here at Spot On Weather that these conditions may actually verify. Second thing I'm really looking for beyond the consistency is, will future runs here on the CFS, will they revert back to their normal warm bias? So I don't have a lot of faith in CFS, and the main reason is because of that warm bias. But this is impressive nonetheless. The image on the left shows the forecast temperatures for December, and then the image on the right shows January. So you can see it's fairly cold across much of the nation, both December and January, according to the CFS. So this is more of those seasonal forecasts, but again, this will most likely change. There's a lot of wild cards, and I mentioned this already in my winter outlook, and I kind of hit on those here at the end of this video here again. Here's the NOAA official winter outlook. Image on the left shows the temperature outlook with the probabilities of occurrence on both the image on the left for temperature and the image on the right for precipitation. Generally, the orangish shadings, the deeper the orange color, the greater the likelihood of temperatures being above normal. The white colors where there's no the white color itself where there's no orange on the image on the left, that indicates average temperatures for the winter. So now they take a look, and this forecast is running from December 2019 to February 2020. So it's a December to February outlook. The probability of warmer than normal temperatures, the light orange shading, generally at 33 to 40%. The image on the right shows a lot of above normal precipitation, probability of precipitation being above normal, quite high from southeast Montana across the upper Midwest into parts of Indiana, Ohio. And generally the white, again, no color on the right indicates near normal precipitation. Now, brown shading on the right indicates below normal precipitation probability, and that would be for Louisiana, eastern Texas, and then parts of California, north and central California. So this is going to be a real interesting forecast. I have taken a look at this extensively, and Mike Halpert, the deputy director, he issues his statements every year when NOAA issues this. And basically, he had mentioned that this is a low confidence forecast because we have a neutral El Nino situation this winter, and there's a lot of variability that could occur for the Arctic oscillation, North Atlantic oscillation. A lot of swinging back and forth of those phases from negative to positive and vice versa. So, I haven't seen many NOAA outlooks that are actually forecasting colder than normal temperatures over the past few years. Most of the time they are showing above normal temperatures, and sometimes some years it verifies and other years it does not, but just keep in mind this is just a probability. And I've looked at some of the longer range models, and even though there's indication of above normal temperatures, the way the pattern is setting up, there's a trough across the central and eastern U.S., the Midwest to the East Coast. There's a mean trough, and then there's a ridge out over the west coast up into Alaska. You can see on the image on the left for Alaska, they're showing a pretty high probability, and we're looking at 60 to 70% chance of above normal temperatures across Alaska this winter. And that generally is associated with a upper level ridge over Alaska and warmer than normal temperatures. And the downstream of that ridge, it's really going to be dependent, in my opinion, on where that mean ridge, where the average position of that ridge sets up, whether it's further over the open waters of the Northeast Pacific or whether it's along the west coast itself. So it's going to be real interesting to see how this pans out. Just wanted to show you in the video tonight the official NOAA outlook for winter. Let's take a look at the teleconnection forecast now. It's that time of year to really be paying attention to these. Generally, a negative AO and negative NAO indicates colder than normal temperatures across the eastern United States, while a positive AO and NAO indicate warmer than normal temperatures across the eastern United States. So the Arctic Oscillation, the AO forecast is on the left, and the NAO, or North Atlantic Oscillation forecast, is on the right. And generally, what we're looking at is a neutral AO for just a little bit into the latter part of October, and then it becomes slightly negative through the first couple days of November before the AO becomes slightly positive, and that's the latest outlook. The image on the right, the North Atlantic Oscillation, is mainly negative for the most part through early November. And you can see these blue vertical bars, if they're below that zero, solid black line, that zero line, if they're pointing below that or dipping below that dark solid middle line, that indicates a negative phase. If they're above that dark solid black line, which is your 0 point, that's a positive phase. So very interesting. Look how negative the AO and NAO have been. And we're going all the way back to July. This image is courtesy of the Climate Prediction Center. The PNA teleconnection, the Pacific North American teleconnection forecast, is generally indicating for below normal or a negative, basically a negative phase of the PNA for a bit here in the latter part, the last week or so of October, and then a positive phase into the first part of November. Around 30th of October to November, we're going to a positive PNA. And I put there how positive PNA, positive is equal to a trough in the eastern U.S. and a ridge in the western U.S. So your coolest temperatures with a positive PNA are going to be in the eastern U.S. from the Midwest to the East Coast, while in a negative phase of the PNA, that trough, the pattern flips, where you get a trough in cool temperatures in the west and a ridge in the warm temperatures in the east. So this is something we're keeping a close eye on here at Spot On Weather. Teleconnections are very big. Let's move to the MJO now, the Madden-Julian Oscillation. What happens in the Pacific greatly impacts our weather here across the United States, especially into fall and definitely into winter. So we're going to be keeping a close eye on that Pacific area, Pacific Ocean area. The Madden-Julian Oscillation, it was stuck in phases 8 and 1 for a bit, and now it's finally in phase 2, and it becomes less amplified. The latest forecast makes the MJO less amplified, and generally it is following around the circle basically, and it gets into phase 5. So initially, now the dates on this MJO forecast are from 22 October today to 5th of November. The panel on the right shows the temperature composites for October, November, and December for all 8 phases of the MJO. So for example, right now we're in phase 2. If you look at phase 2 to the right there with the temperature composites, you notice the blue shading, and that would indicate below normal temperatures, which really isn't necessarily true right now. We're generally sitting around average for this time of year, but it just gives you an idea. If we go to phase 5, you go up to phase 5, it's still relatively cool. There's blue shading across parts of the Midwest over to the from Pennsylvania southward along the East Coast. So that's a cool phase 5. And we'll just have to wait and see how this plays out. But we definitely keep an eye on where the convection is firing up the thunderstorms in equatorial Pacific waters with the Madden-Julian Oscillation forecast. Vertical motion, the ups and downs of the vertical motion in the Pacific Ocean definitely play into amplitudes of the jet stream and how that sets up the long wave pattern. So here are my final thoughts on tonight's video. We're looking at beautiful fall weather for Wednesday, tomorrow, the 23rd of October. And Thursday, the 24th of October. Plenty of sun, highs between 65 and 70, overnight lows dropping into the lower to middle 50s. It's going to be gorgeous out there if you were able to enjoy some kind of evening activity before it gets dark. Go there, go outside, take walks, and get out there, exercise. Just get out there and enjoy this beautiful weather. Looks great the next 2 days as high pressure builds into the mid-Atlantic. Remaining dry on Friday into Saturday early. Now, I am thinking right now, based on the latest model projections, that we will see rain moving back into southeast Virginia from Saturday afternoon into Sunday morning. And again, there's not a consistency between all models on this. So we very well, there's still a possibility we can end up dry and get very little in the way of rain. So I'm just going to throw that word of caution out there tonight. It just depends on how things. I'll be keeping an eye on the European model here to see what happens. Now, showers will then return again on Monday night into Tuesday morning as we have another cold front moving through. And so we'll have some shower activity ahead of that front. Overall, and I've said this before in past videos, we have a progressive pattern in the longer range. So what I mean by that is the troughs and ridges associated with the jet stream move from west to east on fairly short order, and they don't stagnate, or the pattern is not locked in place. So what does that mean? When we get these occasional troughs into the eastern U.S., we'll see occasional shouts of cooler air, and then that'll be followed by these brief mild periods. We're not looking at anything drastic as far as above normal temperatures or below normal temperatures in the foreseeable longer range at this time. Now, there is a difference between that climate forecast system, the CFS, and the European models. They're not exactly matching up with the longer range temperatures, as I showed you earlier in the video here. The CFS is colder, while the European is warmer across the eastern U.S. If we go back, that was this right here. See how the European model has that orangish shading over the eastern U.S. from the 13th of November all the way almost through the end of November, the 28th of November, while the west is cooler with the blue shading, cooler than normal. So that's the European model, okay? But now look at the climate forecast system, the CFS. The blue shading indicates below normal temperatures for both the months of December on the left. If I look longer range, December, and then on the image on the right is January. So it's going to be real interesting to see how things interact between the ocean and the atmosphere, the Pacific's influence on this upcoming winter across the United States. Will we see a repeat of last winter, where we have the cooler than normal temperatures across the north central area, northern plains, Montana, Wyoming, parts of the Dakotas, Wisconsin, Minnesota, in Nebraska? Will we see that this year? I'm not thinking that. I'm thinking this winter we're going to see this progressive pattern continue, where we get these shots of colder air, these Arctic shots later in the winter, followed by some brief milder spells. We may have some very drastic swings in temperature. And again, we have to pay attention to that southeast ridge for the winter. See if it pops its head up like it does at least once during the winter, and that really warms things up into the mid-Atlantic. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. But getting back to the final thoughts, we are expecting chilly weather for the last couple days of October, including Halloween. That's the way it looks right now. As that polar front jet stream dips down into the eastern United States, those thickness values crash, those temperatures follow suit. So right now it's looking dry for Halloween. Like I said, it's looking really good. A little bit of a chill in the air, which is appropriate for Halloween. And we'll keep an eye on things as we get closer to Halloween for sure. Now, again, the NOAA official outlook, I showed you that. It's warm for a great deal of the country, but there's low confidence in that forecast for the temperature because there's a neutral El Nino southern oscillation. NOAA has come out and said they're not really weighting the El Nino this winter, so it's going to be interesting to see what happens. I mentioned the same thing in the video that I had made for Spot On Weather. It's already been almost a month. It's hard to believe how fast time's going. But anyway, our Spot On Weather official winter forecast remains, our outlook is indicating below normal temperatures with near normal precipitation. We're expecting average snowfall for Hampton Roads cities this winter around 7 inches. We're not expecting a snowless winter like last year. We really didn't get much. The winter forecast update, by the way, I'm going to release another update in November, and that will be the final winter forecast for Spot On Weather. I have to take a look at the final ACE values. I have to see how that plays in, and I also need to take a look at the water temperatures off the west coast of the United States. Those are big factors for me in the winter forecast. The low solar activity is going to be there. But generally, my main concern, if we look at these maps again right here, right, my main synoptic players for this winter's forecast is that southeast ridge, as well as, my main weighted factors, as I mentioned in my winter outlook video, is the low solar activity, which typically favors a negative AO and negative NAO teleconnection with a greater frequency of blocking of a higher ridge, upper level ridge into Greenland. And so I can see that AO and NAO go negative for considerable amount of time this winter, and that's when I think we're going to get colder than normal temperatures. And overall, my forecast remains below normal temperatures and average precip for the winter. And my thought is that we're going to see more of the negative AO NAO. We're not going to see as big of an influence with the Pacific this year as we did last year, as we're in El Nino or ENSO neutral conditions. So we're not swinging towards El Nino or La Nina, and that's a big player for me. Now the MJO could throw a curveball in my winter forecast. There's no doubt about it. And again, these teleconnections, the overall global circulations, you got to look all the way across the globe and see what's happening and how that is impacting the configuration of the jet stream, where those troughs and those ridges are setting up. And I'm a believer that we're going to see more cold than mild. We're still going to see our fair share of mild temperatures this winter, but with a negative AO, negative NAO, low solar activity, and general El Nino ENSO neutral conditions, I really believe that we're going to see below normal temperatures this winter. And that's just my personal opinion on it, in my opinion alone. So, all right, that wraps things up tonight. Spot on weather. Take a look, check us out. And I've been really busy lately. I try to make these videos as much as possible, but some things happen. Life happens, and I try my best to make as many as I can. So I appreciate your patience. If there's occasional droughts, no pun intended, droughts. When there's droughts in between my videos, but sometimes life gets a little busy on the side, so you got to manage that too. So, all right, here's where to find us. I'm hoping that I could get back to doing daily 7-day outlooks as well, and get more consistent with that on the blogs, again on the website. So again, thank you for your patience. Thank you for subscribing to my channel, and I'll keep you updated as we continue to move into the latter part of October, and can you believe it? It's almost November already. So there you have it. Spot on weather. If we're not spot on, we're not doing it right. Have a great, great evening, everybody. Hope everybody is getting ready for Halloween, is very excited about it. Take care, and God bless.